Hello and welcome to today's episode of Spec Steppin, where we are stepping through the API spec one little piece of it at a time. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the file system API. Now, if you have not yet seen my video on the file API, all these local file system APIs are closely related. So if you've not checked that one out, I would encourage you to go check that one out. You can do some cool stuff with reading local files. So this is closely related to it. So there are security risks, like with any access in any local file system, you need encryption and all that stuff. And so what this allows you to do is allows you to access the read and write file management capabilities of the local browser. So I won't go through all of this, but basically it allows you to interact with the end user's files where you can open it up, read it, put that information on the screen. You can change some things in the content and save it as something else, that sort of thing. So it really allows more desktop-like behavior in the web environment. So let me just show you a demo here, and then we'll jump into the code. Nothing fancy on the HTML. Excuse me. Just we're just going to open a file, and I want to show you how this works. Pardon me. And then I will show you how we can edit that file and then save it and all that sort of thing. So first, let me just jump over here to my Finder here. So I've got a JSON file. I'm going to use that. It's the same file I used when I tested the file API and did a demo on that one. So it's a similar file, but I'm going to show you how we can make some changes and all that stuff and do some things for the local user. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an open file, and I'm just going to open it just like this. And there, the contents of the file are now here in my little editor. So I'm going to actually show you just changing that a little bit. And if I do save, it'll overwrite it. I'm going to do a save as because I don't want to overwrite it. Call it test.txt file. And I'm going to do save, and it closed it. Now let me jump back here to my file finder. I have a test text file. Let's see if it actually saved my edit here to the name. So if we look, see, it saved my edit to the name. I could have saved over my user underscore data.json file if I wanted to. I just didn't want to do that. But if you can see, I edited the content, saved it as something else. Now I have it on my local system. So it allows us to do some cool things as far as being able to access local files, make some changes to them, and then save them back, just like you would like any editor type program. Now let's jump to the code so we can see how we did this. Let me first jump to the HTML. So nothing fancy on the HTML. I just created a little quick interface so that we can have something to look at on the screen. And then styles, again, nothing fancy here, just some styles that so we could have the size and things, and again, look at it on the screen. And then the user data is just a JSON file of user data for this one user as a test. The real magic happens here in the file system underscore API.js file. So first thing I did is I have a variable I created, a global variable at the top. I created just to store so we can save back that same file later. So I can save it back as the same file. Then I'm doing the typical thing where I'm just grabbing pieces of my HTML DOM and store them in variables. Then I added a bunch, if you look, I added a bunch of event listeners. So all the functionality is within the callbacks within the event listeners. So there's no, I could have created a set aside functions and stuff, but call them, but I just did them within the callback here. So in my button open, when I click, then what it does, first I have this little feature detection. If it doesn't support it, it's going to show an alert. I hate alerts for production applications. I only use alerts and console logs and stuff when I'm doing development and demoing proof of concept type stuff. So if you're doing this type of thing in a production app, do not use an alert. It hijacks the end user's experience. Pet peeve of mine. Maybe other people out there like alerts, but I detest them. Only use them for development purposes. So I would have done something a little more robust and had more graceful degradation fallback for the end user. So I'm detecting a feature. Then I'm setting up options. So text files, what type of text files can I accept? So a TXT, JS, HTML, CSS, Markdown file, and JSON file. So you can set up multiple types or limit what types of text files you want to accept. So that's just options. And then I'm basically opening the file picker. That's what this method is, part of the API, and passing my options to it. So it opens up, that's what actually opens up the picker. And notice I'm storing it in that file handle. That's a global variable I have up there. So I'm basically distributing it to my file handle, and I'm opening up the picker. So if I go back to my code here, that's when I click this button, and there opens up my file picker. Then I in the file handle, now that I have the open file picker with the options and stuff, I have access to certain methods. So one method is getting the actual file from the file system, and I can store that in the file. And then contents, with that, when that's stored in the file, there's a method, property type method slash method, where I can access the text of said file, and I'm storing that in my contents. Then I'm setting a value to the contents. So if I go up here, let me just do this again, and I'll do my there. So the contents is now being rendered from that contents variable on my screen here. And then my button save has been disabled because we have a handle, and I'm setting my text content to editing test.txt. Okay. Then saving my file. Okay. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. Let me go back. My button disabled is being set to false, not set to disabled. Sorry for that misspeak. So that earlier, if you noticed in if I refresh here, it's disabled to start with. It only shows up if I select a file. Also, while I'm here, just refresh. If I open this up and cancel, notice it throws an error, open cancel failed, abort error. Now, it's just throwing that error because I closed it down. What I would recommend we do in a production environment is capture that error and rethrow it to handle it gracefully for the end user, possibly store that information in a database or something like that, and notify when those things have occurred so we can handle them appropriately for a good UX. Then I just got some try catch stuff there. Now, when I'm saving the file, so this saves the file directly to what I just opened. So if I open up my test.txt file, make any edits, click my save button, it's going to save it back to my txt file. So if my file handle doesn't return, I'm just doing that as a safety check just to make sure I've got file handle. And then I'm creating the writable here, what text stream basically to that file stream. And then I'm writing the contents back of that text area back into that stream, into that file, and closing the file and saving it. Okay. And then I'm just saying save successfully. And then after 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds, changing the status of the text content. So let me show you how that works here. So I'm going to open this, and I'm going to say Jane Schmo, and I do save. Okay. Save changes. Yes. Okay. And then it saved it. So if I open it back up, there's Jane Schmo. Okay. So it told me file saved successfully and all that stuff. Now, save as a new file, which is what you saw me do in the beginning, uses similar functionality, just different method than create writable. So first I have some options. How am I going to save it? I have it just set to save as a .txt file. You can have it accept other types of files if you wish for your application, but I just figured a TXT would be sufficient. And then I'm calling the show save file picker into the new handle. So I have file handle, which has my original file in it. Now I'm creating a new handle, which is going to have the new file in it. And then I'm doing that create writable, writing it and closing it, just like I did up here, except I'm not doing it with the original file and file handle. I have a new one where I'm handling the file new. Then we update our current handle to work with the new file. So file handle is then set to the new handle that I just said I wanted to save as, and then button save to disabled, saved as, and it tells me the name. So if I do save as, test2, there, saved as test2, ready to open a file. Okay, and if I go here, I have test 2 right there. There's Jane Schmo. So anyway, this is a pretty cool API allowing you to work with files and things so that if you're allowing them to do some sort of file editing on your application, some sort of document writer, you can do that and have them save it, or even maybe create some functionality where they take information that from your application, put it in something where they can save it to a local file if you wish. So there's a lot of different uses for this. So go ahead and play with it. If you have any questions, let me know. And